Hey love, and welcome back to another video. My name is Pauline. I am your virtual lock educator and your virtual lock mentor. So if you are new here, welcome. If you're not, thanks for hanging in there and sticking with me, okay? If you have not seen my other videos on the difference between shedding and breakage, it was posted like 2 weeks ago. If you haven't seen the video about, if you missed the video about your ends, why your ends break in your locks, I posted that video prior to this one. So there are a lot of, videos out there. So go and watch after this one and get all caught up, okay? Wanted to also answer questions from the previous videos. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions that you guys had asked about the breakage from the previous videos. So one of the questions, here we go. One of the questions that someone had asked me is, does breaking, let me find the question, child, because I don't want to summarize it and be so wrong. Okay, so let me look at these questions real quick to answer these questions for you. Okay, so one of the questions was from the previous breakage shedding videos I've done. One of the questions was, hello, what's your take on popping locks for clean parts? Also, do you think that's the reason for wide parts? So, popping locks, or I think she meant, what's your take on popping the strands of the hair to create clean parts? If the hair is being pulled out of the scalp and separating from the bulb, then that is not healthy, because over time, that area, if that strand just keep coming out from that area, it is no longer going to produce hair in that area. So if they are removing the strand, right, or breaking the strand from the shaft to clean up the row, that's just going to break the strand. But if you're uprooting the whole strand from the scalp, yes, over time it will create wide parts, because that means that hair is not, that follicle is not growing the hair back, because you've damaged the follicle. Okay, so hair that's being repeatedly uprooted from the follicle, after a while they don't come back. That's how people end up with traction alopecia, because they keep braiding these small, braiders. You see, the people with braids or certain things, they keep getting that. They braid these small, hair keep popping. It's popping directly from the follicle. Yeah, they don't be coming back. So that's how you get traction alopecia. So if you're doing that with locks, you're going to have wider parts, because it's creating it's creating traction alopecia, but in between the parts, if that makes sense. So if they are just breaking the strand in the shaft to clean up that row, that's fine. Not that it's fine, but there's no damage there, right? It's not affecting the scalp area. But if it's coming from, if they're pulling it, and that's why they got to be, if you're a loctician, you got to be mindful of how you're separating and cleaning up parts, because you just can't be cleaning up and popping strands. And if you're going to clean up, some of y'all don't be knowing how to properly clean up parts. I don't know if I could do it on this mannequin. You know what? That's just going to be a separate video. But if you're going to be cleaning up parts, if you got to hold the hair, the strands that you're trying to separate, in a certain way where it's not uprooting from the scalp and it's just separating from the shaft, right? So I hope that answers your question, because some people do be too rough with them clean parts, and y'all be pulling hair out the scalp. I've seen some crazy videos, and I'm like, whoo, Lord bless. And y'all, when somebody's doing your hair, say something. If you feel something's off, please say something. You will save your strands in the long run. Another thing that can cause your parts to be wider is the tension during a retightening. So if the lock is being retightened too tight, over time, you have hair pulling, strands pulling from the follicle. Over time, that follicle will not produce another strand. And so because of that, you're going to start having space in between, wider space in between your parts. So traction alopecia definitely can happen when hair, typically you see it a lot around the perimeter, around the hairline, because that hair is weaker and thinner. So it goes quickly. But if not careful, if your retainings are too tight, and it's time and time over again, it's being too tight to the point it's your scalp is folding, or to the point you can just see your scalp screaming for help. Over time, those locks will pull out. Not the locks, the strands will pull out, and it can create, wider parts around the box of your locks. So be mindful of that when you get in your retainings. If your retainings are too tight during, and when I say too tight, if you got to go home and take medication because it's too tight, then that's a sign that it is too tight. Now, some people are just really tender-headed, so just manipulation is going to hurt. But if you notice that, if you're trying to decipher, is it tender-headedness or just too tight, too much tension? If you have to go home and take medication to ease the pain, if you end up with a headache, if like 2 days have passed and it's still tight, it is too tight, okay? Definitely talk to your loctician. Talk about a comfort level that you are okay with, to ensure that you don't lose, that your locks don't thin out down the line, okay? And even if it feels tight, it might not be something you see within a year or two, but certainly over time, if you continue with tight retightenings, that's too tight to where 2 days later, you're still like, oh my God, then you have to speak up and be an advocate for yourself, because the loctician don't know what you're feeling unless you say something. So you have to speak up. You have to say something so they at least know to adjust the tension that they are applying to your retightenings, okay? So be mindful of that, because traction alopecia don't just happen just in the hairline. It can happen, throughout your head as well, okay? Just something to be mindful of. Okay, someone asks, I have fine, thin hair. Would you use hair glaze in black damage? Oh, hair glaze in black, will it damage her hair? A hair glaze is not damaging. It's just adding pretty much shine. So you can add hair glaze to your hair if you just want to just do the glaze on your hair. Because she's saying her hair is more of a ashy black. So due to sun exposure, so it's an ashy black to sun exposure, and she just wants it as black as possible. So just doing a hair glaze is fine. And someone asks, how are you keeping your dyed locks healthy? Okay, y'all, I did a video on if you have colored hair and you want to know how to care for it and keep it healthy. I did a video that is called My Wash Day Routine for my colored locks. I will tag it, so at the end of the video, it will be one of the videos that come up for you to watch, okay? So that was the questions for that video. And then next, someone said, I have a hard time keeping my locks moisturized. Once again, I'm going to, the video that is tagged at the end as to the next video to watch, I'm going to make sure that it is the video on how I treat my colored locks, so you guys can see that. Okay, so someone else is asking a question about, okay, so she's been locks 2 years now, 2 years and 6 months, whoop, whoop. And I have Microlocs and my hair grows outside of my locks. And what I do is cut the extra hair because I don't feel like crocheting it back into my hair. Is that okay? Or should I just leave it alone because my loctician don't know what to do? So can you please help me? Okay, so I'm not pro cut the strands around your locks. Because if your loctician is not pulling that hair, because some of y'all think y'all have hair that grows outside of your locks, and that's not true. That's not everybody's case. some people hair, unfortunately, some locticians aren't pulling the strands into the lock. Some don't know how to do it. Some just won't take the time to do it. It is a little bit more work. So if you take that hair, wrap it, and then make sure that you're interlocking the strands into that lock, it is going to help. Because if you keep doing that over time, not pulling the hairs into the lock is going to get thin, and after a while, you might experience breakage at the at the base of your locks, and you're thinking your hair is breaking because you're experiencing thinning. You might have some medical stuff going on. You think, oh, it's hormonal, when that's not the case. The locks can really be nice and healthy if the hair is pulled into the lock. So I hate to say this because I'm not trying to take money out of somebody's pocket, but if somebody's not trying to take the time to care for your locks, to pull the hairs into your lock, find you another loctician. Because if you stay, you're going to end up with no locks. You're going to end up with patches, and you're like, how am I losing locks? Why are my locks falling out when I'm consistent with my maintenance? If you get a retie and it does not look like a retie because it's a frizzy ball at the base of your hair, and it's because the hair is not being pulled in, please find you somebody else. And I hate to say that because y'all know I'm pro locticians, okay? But I'm not pro laziness. Especially when you're charging somebody a fee to do a service, then do the service. Do the service. Take care of the person's hair, okay? And if you can't perform the service, send them somewhere else where you know they'll be taken care of. But sometimes when the loctician isn't doing their job, which is pulling that hair in, you will end up with breakage in the long run, and then you're devastated about your lock journey. You're hating your lock journey because it's not doing what it's supposed to do. With that said, there are some people who just have hair that grows outside of the lock. But if you have hair that grows outside of the lock, even when the loctician is pulling that hair in, you will still have frizzy hairs outside of the lock. So if you go along your strand of the lock, and it's still, even though you have hair growing outside the lock, but you can go through, you can feel the strand of the lock, and it's the size of the lock is consistent. The diameter or the circumference of the lock is consistent throughout. Then you know that person is doing their job. You just have hair that grows outside of the lock. So now I would really recommend crocheting it in. If you're not going to crochet it in, twist it around the lock to give it some neatness. I would not recommend cutting it. But if it's bothering you that much and you want to cut it, there's a video that I'm going to tag her on the video, but there's a video where I show how to, if you're going to cut, how the proper way of cutting, how close to the lock you want to cut, how far down to the lock you want to cut, and so forth. I do have a video explaining that. I'm not pro it, but for those who need it, I have the video for you, because I have some clients be like, girl, get these extra strands out of my lock, please. And I'm like, okay. I educate them first. And if they say, I hear you, Pauline, but go ahead and do what I asked you to do, then I'm like, okay, girl, we're going to do what you want me to do, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, and if you're a loctician, be sure that you know the difference so you can properly educate your clients, because you don't want them to think that you're doing something wrong when you're not. And don't just educate just to tell them, but your actions are doing something different too. So be mindful of that. Everybody just make sure you operate in integrity, okay? It will keep your business afloat. It will keep your clients happy, and so forth. Did I answer all the questions? And if you're a loctician, you need support in your lock business, don't hesitate to reach out and get support. Like, sometimes, you got to pay for knowledge, to get extra information, to get the support that you need. Technique is not enough. I keep telling folks all the time, technique is not enough. You need to understand why you do what you do, what is going on, how to help each client. Everybody is different. You're going to come across different issues, and you're like, what in the world? Okay, so I answered that. Okay, I think I answered all the open questions that I received. So, okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. If you got any questions, ask questions. I'm an open book. If you need classes, you need support, hit me up. You know, I can, if you don't know what class to take, because I have different classes teaching different things, hit me up and I can direct you to the class that will be best for the information that you need, and so forth. Okay. Comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, share. Let's keep this going. Okay. I love y'all and I'll see y'all in the comments. Let's go.